Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Entrepreneur Show. The Healthy Entrepreneur Show is brought to you by Business Takeout, recognizing Black wealth through business education. To follow Business Takeout, please join them on their website. Please follow their website at businesstakeout.com and follow them on all social media platforms for this podcast and so much more. My name is Maxine Choy, and I'm your host tonight. I am a health and nutrition coach. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can follow me on Instagram or visit my website at livewellwithmaxine.com, and I can help you out with all your health and wellness needs. I am so excited tonight because I have my guest who has been my guest in the past, and we're going to continue our talk about mental health. And I'm going to introduce to you now Sabrina. Welcome to the show, Sabrina. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Absolutely. I mean, when we last spoke, it was getting so interesting, and there was just so much for us to cover, and we ran out of time, obviously, but we covered a few things, and we were talking about mental health, mental wellness, and then mental um, illness, disorders or illness,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And in light of the fact that we're now in Black Mental Health Month. Yesterday was Black Mental Health Day, and also in light of the fact that our environment has changed, so much has happened since COVID, and it has been on the top of everybody's heart with mental health. So whether it's the community or individually or whatnot. So we're going to dive into this topic of mental wellness. Hi, Makisha. We're going to talk about mental wellness because like I said, we had dissected the whole difference. And in particular, we want to talk about, and I'm just going to go through them because you and I loved how you explained about why it is that we need to talk about this, right? And it's the effects. It has to do with our environment as well, our epigenetics. It ties in with COVID. It's bringing out all kinds of emotions in us, whether it's fear or anxiety or uncertainty, even feeling of insecurities, and it's making us feel disabled. I shouldn't say it's making us. I should say I correct. It's it's bringing things out to the forefront that we probably didn't even realize, right, about ourselves. So we want to talk about just this whole. We're going to talk about it. This is just a conversation. We're going to dive deep and start talking about mental wellness. So,
well, thank you so much.
No
thank
problem.
you so much for having me. This is a passion of mine, as we shared in private conversations. And the main reason why I'm so passionate is because of my own childhood traumas and childhood issues. It led to living with PTSD, and it actually hijacked my life for so long. And now through getting educated, becoming an instructor, doing various techniques to be well and healthy, especially for me, in an African indigenous way, and we'll touch on that later, is so vital, because wellness for me is something that is connected to the way my great grandmother,
Exactly.
the way she lived.
Right.
And how was she well with less technology,
Right.
less information, and was able to actually, she was a midwife. She died at 104 for something like that, right? And
Wow. My
so,
great grandmother died at 105. Wow.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so she barely knew how to read and write. I don't even think she knew how to read and write, but she healed many thousands, delivered babies, you know, and in the country in St. Elizabeth in Jamaica. So how was she able to maintain her wellness for herself and for the people that she served or supported? So I think the passion comes from my personal experience, but it's also the blood that runs through my veins. And
Absolutely.
and I think, not I think, I know for a fact that maintaining wellness, understanding mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual wellness, not physical, the non-physical part of ourselves, understanding wellness is actually prevention, right? And
Wow.
my mom always says prevention is better than cure,
Absolutely.
right?
It's a well-known
So,
saying.
yeah. So for me, wellness, I think for COVID, for everybody, not only people from the African Caribbean community, but for anybody, wellness is something that we think it's self-care, but it's actually caring for yourself. And what's the difference? So self-care is Sabrina put on her lipstick, her makeup, did her nails. That's the external part. Caring for self is that internal check-in,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think practicing wellness on a daily basis definitely invites prevention and or reduces the chances of developing a mental health problem, like an onset.
You know what, Sabrina? That's I personally go through that where there was a time when I wasn't, I wasn't really practicing wellness. I
Mhm.
was more inviting all those thoughts into my space, and I was playing the victim role.
Mhm.
And we do that so easily, especially when we, I don't know, when we feel like we've been victimized, or we feel like
Yes.
we've been unfortunate, or we feel like we're just not getting a lucky break, whether that be a personal thing or business or family or whatever. We can internalize so much. And I think, like you said something, you said that it was, um, you intentionally practice it so it prevents you from getting into that space of mental,
100%.
right?
Mhm.
And I talk to a lot of people who will say that every day they wake up, or each time they feel, that they want to do something, they beat themselves up. And rather than saying, you know what, let me just start and do little by little, they they look at the problems and the limitations and
Yes.
like whatever, right? So if you practice mental wellness, then you prevent the mental breakdown. For
Yes.
instance, a good tip for anyone who's watching, um, when you said mental health or mental care or self-care is putting on your
Yes.
lipstick. But if you just took a time and just do some deep breathing on a regular basis,
Mhm.
that is the key, that
Yes.
to help you check your mental health, right? Or your mental
Yes.
wellness. I mean, I can go on about that, but
Yes.
it's so important because it helps you.
Well, breathing pertaining to mental wellness is key. Uh, of course, the science part, oxygenating our blood
Yes,
and our cells and
definitely.
our organs. But what happens is this our frontal cortex of our brain is our reasoning brain. That's our reasoning, our
Exactly.
rationale. When we are filled with fear or tension or stress, the blood rushes right from our brain into our chest and we feel like fight or flight. So
Right,
when
right to
we
our stomach.
breathe into our stomachs, exactly. So when we breathe and we take that deep inhale from our gut, not from our chest or our
Absolutely.
throat, from our gut, it actually takes that blood and that oxygen and puts it back.
Back
And
into
so
you.
what
Yeah.
happens is a couple of things happen. First, we oxygenize our brain and our neural pathways and all that stuff. So now we can think clearly. So the function of the organ, the brain, can now work. So now the mind can work, right? The
Exactly.
second thing is when we breathe, we become present. So
Exactly.
when we are present, we're no longer living in the past, the
past.
last 5 seconds, which introduces depression, and then we're
Right.
not living in the next 5 seconds, which is introducing or
The,
inviting
the
anxiety.
panics. Yes.
Yes.
So
So that's what breathing really does for mental wellness, besides the
absolutely.
science part, right?
I'll read Makisha's comment in a second, and keep it there, please. If the producers can keep that there, I just want to say something before I forget. When
Yeah.
you also practice your breathing technique, it provides a different energy for you. It can actually make you either be more calm or happy. Your responses are different. If somebody irritates you or gets you angry or said something that poses a trigger for you, and you just say, okay, let me just stop. So you're being mindful of the fact that somebody has said something. So you can either react or respond. So you want to respond. So you just take a deep breath and inhale, and then you exhale. And if you have to do it 3 times, that's fine. But the
Okay.
point is, it definitely shifts your mindset. Your answer, your response will be like totally different. And I know that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to do that at the time it happens. And then there are often times when I would tell somebody, like, practice that. It'll take a while. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen right away. But it really does change your mind. Makisha says, how do you perform an internal checklist when your baseline has been
Mm.
chronically fight or flight? How do we recalibrate to normal? Oh my goodness, what a
So
great
that's
question.
a great
It is.
question.
Do you want me to start or do you
So,
want to go? You can go.
you can start, and I'll tag along.
Okay, so when I to do an internal checklist, you ask yourself some questions. Why am I feeling this way? And um, why does it affect me? What happens to my body when this happens? And what can I do to change this? Because you know that this is it's chronicle, fight or flight. And I mean, when we talk about chronicle, sometimes we need to seek professional help. But if this is something that you can work on yourself internally, you just have to do a mental checklist and ask the like why, what, how, and
Mhm.
that type of thing. That's my best answer, Makisha. And if you ever want to talk to me, you can send me an email, sign up for my 15-minute power session. I can definitely help you with that. But Sabrina, you want to go ahead and answer?
Yeah. So for me, I used to have a lot of panic attacks. And at the time, this is like almost 15 years ago. So I didn't even know like it was I thought I was
Right.
having a heart attack. And in fact, it actually mimics a heart attack.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, except a heart attack is fatal and a panic attack is, 15 minutes or so. And so knowing what I was doing then and learning how to heal really
Mm-hmm.
and self-regulate, the first thing that helps is what we touched on is the breathing. The second thing is that supported me, and when I used to coach, I don't anymore, is knowing your baseline. So my baseline is I'm bubbly, I'm smiley, I'm positive, I'm optimistic. So I know my baseline. My memory
Yes.
is impeccable, it's sharp.
Right.
I love music. So I know my baseline. So any adjustments to my baseline, that's the first
Yes.
that's the first check-in. And how do we know that? How do we do that? When? First thing in the morning. Our daily routine, prevention is better than cure. Your daily routine sets up the whole day. The first 15 minutes of your day is vital. I no
Right.
longer check my phone until about an hour after I
Right.
wake up,
Right.
right?
Right.
Drinking a lot of water, right? So, know your baseline. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I had to tell myself the truth because
Mm-hmm.
the
When you
example
ask
you,
those questions,
yes, because
the truth. Yes.
exactly. The example you gave before is someone triggered me. But what happens when you're triggering your damn self? What happens when I tell myself a lie and go into this pattern and work up my own self and tell myself a lie about what I think had happened or what I think they mean by what they said, right?
Right.
Because sometimes I trigger myself. So A, I know my baseline. B, and I'm an overthinker, right? So I know my baseline. Two, I tell myself the truth. And three, I have a daily routine with a toolkit. In my toolkit, I have music, I have my incense, I have my elders, I have motivational things I listen to, I have the songs I need, I have the books, like Clutch, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I don't want to promote that book. I'm just showing you that
Yeah,
I
I get
I
it.
live what I speak,
Yes, I get
right?
it.
And then to recalibrate is you automatically would recalibrate
Hmm.
by doing those things, right? The daily inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. So it's that
Oh,
daily routine,
right. Right.
right?
Thank you for sharing that with us. And for anybody who's watching the show, if this is something that you feel you want to share with somebody, we do encourage you to like
Yeah.
and share this podcast. We want to reach out to as much people as we can, and hopefully we could provide some assistance. So you and I talked about the fact that our epigenetics and our protein makeup, our environment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So epigenetics is not new. There's a saying where you become a product of your environment.
Right.
It's very, very ancient. It's over 5,400 years old. It's something that the ancients knew, where our environment
Right.
actually changes our DNA. Our
Yeah.
environment changes the protein. So there's an example that, oh, my grandmother had cancer, my mother had cancer, so I'm probably going to get cancer. No, baby girl, your grandmother
Right.
probably ate very badly and slept badly. Your mother
Right.
probably copied the environment of what she learned, and then now, based on that diet and the stress levels and resentment, unforgiveness, all these different things that makes us unwell now can lead to cancer. And we all can Google this, that our environment, how we feel and how we
Absolutely.
think changes how the DNA is developed,
Yep.
how that new cells, new skin,
Yes.
new muscles is developed. So, what happens when we stay in stress? Well, the cortisone levels are so high. How
Hmm.
can healthy heart tissue, healthy lung tissue, healthy joint tissue replace itself, replenish itself under stress?
It does. It does not. You're depleted your white blood cells, and you're killing your
100%.
cells. Right. Um, that is so true. When you say that, people think like if my grandmother or whatever mother had this, then it means I'm gonna get that, and because of those thoughts, it can actually make you live out of fear
Yes.
based motivation or even threaten based motivation. And what I mean by that is that everything that you do or do not do is going to be based on the fear that you may develop that or
Right.
whatever, right? And that's just a very unhealthy way to live, and it could actually um, prevent you from taking the care of yourself that you need, because
Right.
and of course it's just like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
You think these things are happening to you, you think this is how unfortunate you are, or you think this is, your life is a curse or whatever you might think, right?
Right.
And then you sometimes we can develop these thoughts and attitudes that will bring forth some mental challenges, right? And
Yeah.
it's the reality. But I mean, I think it's very important that we do that mental wellness check and have that little
Yeah.
box, like know your baseline. I love that. Like I never really thought about it that way. I
Yeah.
my baseline is pretty much calm and positive, and
Yeah.
just love to laugh and joke and things like that. But I like that. I think I'm going to think about that next time.
You know what? Especially for COVID. So when
Yeah.
COVID first started in March, I came off social media for a few months, because I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that I wasn't sleeping. I
Oh,
noticed I was eating a lot. I wasn't these little things. So I came off, and I asked, there were 3 people that I asked, um, I need to know this information because it ties into my 9 to 5 work. Right.
right,
And so because I knew my baseline was changing. And not only
right.
that, but there's a part of wellness for me is positive thinking, positive feeling equals positive reality.
Yes, I like
Negative
that.
thinking plus negative feeling equals negative reality. So if I'm thinking I'm stressed, and that's the lens that I'm looking at life, then that's my thinking. Then my feeling is I am stressed. So what does a stressed person look like? Because it's the thinking, the feeling, and then the action, right? Then
Right.
equals the reality. So once we start to practice wellness and we check in on our thoughts, then we now take back the power. We now take back our right to live. We take back our energy, our life force. And at that point, we have choices. Oh, Sabrina, you're thinking very stressful right now. Okay, so what this is a care of self. I'm my best friend to myself, right? So I said, Sabrina, what do you need to think right now? What do you need to do? You're thinking negatively, think positively. Okay, if you're under this COVID stress, what would the positive Sabrina be thinking? She would come off social media and start reading her books and journal again and get back into a positive routine. And so my experience last year is vastly different than some of the greatest people I know that I even look up to, because I was able to take control of my thoughts, my feelings, and then my actions were more positive. We can't have a positive result with a negative thought pattern.
You know,
It's against science. It's against nature.
you know, you hit a nerve. You touched on something for me, and I, you know, when we were going to talk about this, I thought, Maxine, this may get a little personal, right? And I'm going to share just one little aspect of my journey through struggling with how I was feeling. So I never really. I saw James's comment. I'll read it in a second. So actually, let's see what James has to say. Sorry, if the producers can bring that up again. Do you believe that systematic racism contributes to mental health
Mm.
issues in the Black community? Oh my goodness.
I
Um,
just had a talk about this like an hour ago or half
let's
hour
elaborate
ago.
on that then. We can
Yeah.
share. My story is not that important.
So it absolutely does. And earlier, I said when I was practicing my own mental wellness, I had to learn indigenous African ways.
Yes,
How did my
exactly. Yeah.
ancestors deal with stress? PTSD existed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because with
Yes.
tribal wars, it has an effect on mental health.
Right.
So there's various things. So if we go back to epigenetics, our genes remember.
Right.
Our
They do.
genes remember when we were royalty, kings and queens of dynasties, and our genes remember when as enslaved Africans. And if you're from maybe a European race and maybe your ancestors were the oppressors, your genes also remember that,
They do.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
anger, the fear, the confusion. So our genes carry memory, and that
Yes.
memory is in our body. So if we come from a lineage, which most of us do, half of my side is from Papua New Guinea, and my other half is from West Africa,
Right.
and my parents. So I know I carry that indigenous root and I carry that enslavement, right? And so when I'm in a system that's racist with a construct, it triggers me, and all of a sudden I'm upset or emotional, and I didn't know why. I didn't know
Mm.
why until I started to learn the science behind mental health, mental wellness, and spiritual practices. And so when we talk about Black mental health specifically, we need to understand that our genetic is different. So we experience um, um, mental health problems a little bit differently because of the trauma that's
Mm-hmm.
stuck in our DNA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. That is so, so true. We do.
Yeah,
I mean, can I just speak a little bit by saying that differently, as in like some of us can manage it and some of us can't, or have
right.
struggle with it, right? But
Right.
yes, the trauma is there. And I mean, it's all up to us to figure out ways to get through it, and
And
yeah.
I would, and it's like, okay, so in my, and I'm trying to put myself when I started my journey, it's like, how can I figure it out? Right. And I think we touched on this the last session about, like beating our kids, right? That was an enslaver, that the slave master, that's their influence on us, right? So now I question everything. I
Right.
question everything. And there's
Hmm.
a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. I'm
Wow.
probably not even pronouncing it right. And she talks, so she gives a story that there's a black mother with her black children at the bank. Then I believe there's like a white family, a white mother with the
Mm-hmm.
children, and then behind that there was another black woman and family. And I believe
Right.
the story goes that the two black children at the desk of the bank, at the teller, were stuck to their
Mm-hmm.
mother. And now
Okay.
the mother, they're doing her thing, and then the white woman goes and talks to the other teller. So the white woman and her children are running up and down and playing. So the black kids are like, oh, I want to do that too. And they're running up and down, right? And they're running up and down and playing. And the third mother in line, the black mother, was giving them a look, like, go back to your mother. So now these kids, these children, sorry, they don't realize, like, why can't I play like those other kids? And so she was saying that she realized that back in when we were enslaved, that black mothers kept their children very
Yep.
close, right?
Yes.
And didn't
Yes.
because if they let them go too far, they may never see them again, or they may end up being raped or hurt really badly. And so my mother never let me used to sleep out. My grandmother, even worse, right? So we have to really question, why is it that I or we operate this way and other people don't, and just start questioning
Mm.
it, and start to do some research. It's not like back in the day where I had to go to library and read all these encyclopedias. Like, everything's a click of a button.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really important for us to, when we talk about wellness, is what does wellness look for me as an
Right.
individual, but what does it look for me, um, based on your ethnicity and your
Right.
and your ancestors, right? Because we all have different ways where wellness would look different and
Right.
would work
Right.
and not work, right?
Interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, when you talked about the children in the bank and keeping the kids quiet, I think it's more so of that. And I hate to say this, but if the kids got a little out of hand and they were making a lot of noise and having too much fun, they, being black, who knows, they may be looked upon as unruly and out of order, and it
Yeah.
may cause for concern somewhere. I have no idea. I mean, I don't want to pull the racist card or anything like that because I don't like to.
No.
But it's more so maybe the grandmother or the other woman that was in the bank was maybe what she had experienced, so she's now
Yes.
expressing it that way, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So makes
Yeah.
sense. James, I hope that kind of gives you some insight as to what she means by that. I think it's interesting that we have the trauma from all those things that happened to us. So it it we bring it into our lives, into our children's lives, and if
Yes.
our children don't really get enlightened with these get
Yeah.
educated with, they may take it into with their children, right? So
I wanted to add something. Sorry to cut you, my
that's
sister.
okay. No, that's
Um,
fine. That's fine. It's no problem. Okay, so
we touched about epigenetics, and another thing that I speak about, is this thing, watching this and those videos of uh, police brutality,
Yeah.
shooting, and
Hmm.
you know, the Karens and all of these things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we need to you know, not watch and be aware. I think being aware is very important. It's crucial to be aware, actually, because awareness
Yes.
is
Yeah.
everything. But
Hmm.
I would also offer that we be cautious of some of the things that we are watching, because some of the things
Mm.
that we are watching is adding or taking away from our life force, our energy, our zest, our
Oh my
joy, our
gosh.
peace. It takes
Yes.
away from that. And not
Yes.
only that, it's now creating a whole cycle of thought pattern, right?
Right.
And I was watching a video of this little boy playing basketball in his front yard, and he looked up and saw a police car, and he hid behind his dad or mom's, whoever's truck, hid until the police car drove back, and then went back and bounced his ball and started playing. Now, what did he
Oh.
watch? What happened in
Or
his in,
not only that, like what was he taught? Like, you know what I mean? Oh,
yeah,
there
what
when
did
you see
he hear?
police, make sure you stay away, stay far, and don't get caught up with them. Don't let them, have to
Right.
ask you any questions. Yeah.
And the thing is, when we hear or see or experience these things in our environment, it changes our DNA. But also, so it in terms of mental wellness, it
Right.
actually puts us at risk of developing PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, or
Right.
ASD, which is acute stress disorder, or depression.
Right.
So
Right.
because now our bodies is not producing healthy chemicals, healthy proteins, you
Hmm.
know, to
Hmm.
really be well. So a part of racism and systemic racism in particular, a part of it is to destroy the psyche of you know, Black and Brown Indigenous people. That's one part, and the other part that I wanted to stretch on in terms of our environment and watching devices is just be
Right.
very, very mindful.
Right. You know, especially now with COVID, I think that our mental well-being has been extremely compromised. Um, I know firsthand that I have people who have expressed to me how their lack of motivation, self-esteem, um, just overall just taking care of themselves. They're not eating
Mhm.
healthy. They're not working out. They just don't feel they have any zest for life. And because of this uncertainty with COVID and being at home, and maybe even having relationships that are just being strained right now. And so if you had any mental health issues before that, or mental, or any
Mhm.
kind of emotions that were, maybe you were able to help them by going out for a walk, or meeting a friend, or going to the spa or the gym. These are modalities that we had before, where we can go out and relieve stress, or meet with somebody that could help change your mood. And we don't have that now, and it's intensified because now you're in your home and you don't have that device. So
Mhm.
it's becoming an issue, and I fear that when we come out of COVID,
Mhm.
what's life gonna be like? And I mean, I'll tell you why. Because
Okay.
I was invited somewhere, and I was telling my friend I didn't want to go. And you would think, well, Maxine, no, like, go. This is an opportunity to go out. It's been a while. You've been cooped up in the house for so long. Go out and have
Mhm.
fun, mingle. And I didn't want to go because I felt so, uh, not, I wasn't depressed. I was more like, I wasn't feeling in the mood. Um, yeah, it's, so Gil
Yeah.
says, very true. It's even hard to run our own business. No motivation at all. Absolutely. Like, I had no motivation to put myself together. My closet. I just basically, I don't even bother looking in my closet anymore. I get up every day and I look
Yeah.
for my yoga pants and I look for something comfortable, and that's it. And I didn't feel like going, and I thought, what's happening here? Do I not want to socialize anymore? Am I just comfortable in my own little bubble where nobody
Mhm.
has, I don't have to bother with letting anybody see how I'm feeling, or
Mm-hmm.
am I? And to add to that, I actually thought that there was just nothing to look out, to look further
Right.
forward to.
Right.
I couldn't imagine what life is like. So, like, what am I doing? Everywhere is closed. There's nothing happening, right? So I ended up going with my friend, and we had such a good time.
Yes.
And
Of
I didn't know these places were open, and I had such a great time. And I was communicating with people. I saw life, and I was like, this is great. And I was able to just be out there. And it's different from going to the grocery store. It's different, right?
Yeah.
But that alone was helpful. It was very helpful to me, because I was struggling with my wellness is being able to socialize and meet people. I'm a talker. When I go out, by the time we're finished, we're best friends, because I'm just so social. So that was very difficult for me, and I was having a very hard time with that. And to be honest with you, I struggle with dealing with the fact that it's going to change. I struggle with that.
Um, so I'm going to share a quick way to hijack some of um those worries.
Okay, I'm listening.
So there's a saying called "fake it till you make it,"
Hmm, I've heard
right?
it.
Fake it till you make it,
Right.
and so and I'm just using this very loosely, right? Because the subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or not real. The body doesn't know what's real or not real, right?
Right.
So there's certain, like with my PTSD, my body remembered some of the traumas even from my car accidents, and it's 10, 12 years later, and certain things
Right.
I feel my body, so my body, doesn't know that, no, Sabrina, you're safe, it's okay, right?
Yes. Yes.
So the fake it till you make it. So why do I say that, and what do I mean? So I say, okay, COVID is happening. It's not going away right now, right? It's getting better, getting worse. And I'm in Alberta, so we're very good. The malls are open, restaurants are open, so we're very different out here. Even though I'm from Toronto, I live out here now, and so my experience is very different from people in Toronto. But when I'm talking to people, I say to them, and this is what I practice. Okay, here's the situation:
Mm-hmm.
COVID, job loss, didn't get into school, whatever it is. Here's the situation. Now, Sabrina, you have two choices. You could act as though you were defeated. And how would that Sabrina act? Or
Mm.
how would the Sabrina act if she was undefeated? So yes, she's
Oh,
going through
okay.
COVID, she's going through job loss, she's going through breakup, she's going through family breakdown, weight gain, weight loss, sickness, whatever, right? How would you act if you were undefeatable? Or if
I
I'm
like
doing
that.
my spiritual healing, I would say, how would you show up as God or your God self? Right?
Right.
And I
I
don't mean
love
God
that.
as in spiritual. I mean like your higher being. How would you
Your higher
show up
being.
if you were
Exactly.
if you were like royalty, and your whole community is depending on you as the king or queen? How would you show up? And so right away, I know I have a choice. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't give power to the defeating feeling and thought. Then right away, the energy is first of all, the energy it calibrates higher. So it raises that beautiful feeling, that wonderful
Right.
feeling. Now, once we're in that higher energy state, now we're creative and innovative. We're almost like
Mm.
mini gods, right? And I don't
Absolutely.
mean a spiritual religion. I don't mean a
Right.
religious God. I'm just talking about like I am the creator of my life. I am the
Right.
captain of my sail, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So now COVID is happening, job loss, worry, starting working, stop
Right.
working, lockdown, open up, all of these things. It's going to happen, but what can I control? I can control on how I respond. So if
Mm-hmm.
I am going to be the undefeated Sabrina, and I could tell I went through divorce, I've been through bankruptcy, I dropped out of high school, I've I've been there, done that. I worked
Done that.
in a SARS hospital during SARS, right? So I've
Wow.
been in various situations
Right.
that I could literally say, practicing this technique in how would the Sabrina act as how would she act if she was undefeated? Then
Oh, I
your
love that. I'm
whole
gonna have to
thought
write that
process
down.
is different. It's beautiful because now I
Oh,
have the power. And
yeah,
that's
I like
where
that.
you have all these business ideas started to come. You become
Yes.
innovative.
Oh
Even
my
if you're
gosh.
at work, like all of these, you cannot think creatively in a pessimistic, negative, fearful mind.
Mm, my
You
goodness
can't.
gracious. No,
You can't.
no, you can't.
So,
Gail McLean says exactly. Uh,
yes.
and and when you were talking about if you think positive and act positive and all that stuff you're talking about,
Yeah.
I can relate to that. So faking it is a strategy to trick the body as a coping mechanism. And Makisha, I'm going to piggyback on that because I was having a conversation with somebody about Instagram and social media. And this is probably a good description of faking it till you make it. So I started Instagram very late, where people were already on there. And I started
Mm-hmm.
in 2015, I think. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, I was in a situation where I was like, not the Maxine you see now. And I don't even know if I'm still there, but if I'm there yet. But the point is, I was people pleasing. I had no voice. I didn't speak up for myself. I thought very low of myself, and I didn't really think that I deserved anything. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really, I was just living my life and just conforming to what anybody wanted. So whether it was my boss, my coworkers, my friends,
Yep.
I just basically lived my life to please everyone because I didn't want anyone to not like me.
Right.
Because when you don't like me, then I feel that I don't know. I just don't. It's just a weird feeling when I had in me that I thought I had to be liked in order to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
That actually came from my parents, my mom. And it's not. I'm not putting my mom down. My mom is a
No.
wonderful lady, but my mom had a mentality that don't do anything that's not nice because then they won't like you,
Mm-hmm.
or be nice. I don't let anybody get mad at me type of thing. My
Mm-hmm.
mom didn't like anybody getting mad at her, and I grew up very close to my mom, so I would always mimic that of her.
Right.
um I would never say anything to make you get mad at me or not like me or whatever. It was just a weird
Yeah.
thing. So anyway, when I started my Instagram, I called it, or whatever, I called it some weird name, but anyway, so it's called Being Maxine, and that's my personal Instagram where I expressed myself. And how I did that was I said, Maxine, you can go on Instagram and you can start talking about all your problems, or giving people, um, like just being really crazy, like really stupid. I don't know. I just thought, what do I do? What do I do? So I said, okay, I'm going to help myself. So I started putting everything on there that was positive. That's
Yes.
all. And every time I did a post, people would say, "Oh my gosh, that was so inspiring. You really helped me."
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, silently, I'd say, "You have no idea how that was helping me."
Right.
Because when I was feeling negative, I would flip it. So
Yes.
if you see a post on Being Maxine a couple of years ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, or 5 years ago, or whatever it is, if you see a post on there and it says, um, "Don't let anybody dim your light," or "Don't,"
Right.
it's very motivating. It's because I was probably feeling that way, or I'm trying to inspire somebody because I had a conversation with somebody that
Mm-hmm.
um, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm having a life that's terrible. It just means that I want to get myself out of those thoughts, right?
Right. Right.
But sometimes people translate it to say that I'm being fake, or I'm not living the life that I portray, or I'm not being authentic, or sometimes it's translated that I'm trying to portray a life of glamour and glitz, but I'm not. What I'm
No.
trying to do, right? I,
No, not
I
at
just,
all.
yeah, I just try to put things on there that is uplifting for somebody. It could probably
Yeah.
help somebody. It's helping me.
Yeah.
Um, and that's pretty much been my mental wellness
Yeah.
journey, because I really was in a space in my life. I was in a marriage, and it was extremely difficult for me to live my life and feel that I'm living it for myself
Right.
without being feeling like I was sacrificing so much of what I'm capable of, is so much of who I am. I felt like
Yeah.
I was going to go down into the depths of whatever. So I had to figure out a way to help myself. And I'm telling you, if I didn't do that, I don't know where I would have been. I don't think I would have been able to come out of this shell. I wouldn't have been on this platform. I wouldn't have been on social media. I would have just stayed in my bubble, and I would have been very depressed because I have that nature,
Yeah.
right?
It,
We all have that nature.
I think we all do. We have this positive and negative parts of ourselves, or yin,
Yes.
sun, moon, day and night. And and the reason why I say fake it till you make it, you're not really faking it. You're just
You're
tapping
not.
into the other part. Because for me,
Exactly.
it's like, act as I act as though I act or think about the desired outcome. What is the
Yes.
desired outcome, right? So the desired outcome is, you want to have control over your emotions. You want to be
Yes.
influential, you want to be positive. So
Right.
there's times where I'm crying and I'm hurting,
Yes.
and I said, you're allowed to do this, but it's about
Yes.
that 1%. Inch by inch is a cinch,
Yes.
yard by yard is hard. So what is that 1% of positivity that I can feel? I said, you know what? I'm crying and I'm feeling upset right now and hurt and disappointed, but at least I have some people that I can call, right?
Yes.
So I
Exactly.
act as though um what I lean towards the outcome
The
desired
outcome.
in
Absolutely.
that situation. So that's fake it till
Right.
you make it. It's focusing on
Absolutely.
the desired outcome. And again, the
Exactly.
subconscious mind and the body doesn't know what's real or
No.
fake. It knows what you tell it. So if
Exactly.
I go into the positive thoughts and feelings of my situation, I reduce the trauma that's happening. So I take
Exactly. And
back
that's
my
exactly,
control.
and that's what I was doing. To be honest with you, I was trying to reduce the trauma of what I was going through by just staying positive, and that has helped me so much on my journey, because
Yes.
basically whatever I was feeling, I would do the opposite. And
100.
I will continue to do that, because I think that, well, I don't think, I know that a lot of people have reached out to me to tell me how much it has helped them, and how inspiring I am, and how, say I post something, they're like, oh, that came at the right timing and whatnot.
Yes.
So, in a way, I'm actually helping myself, my own mental wellness, and we all have to figure out something, right? It's
It's
not an
inch
easy
by
road.
inch, inch by
The
inch is a
mind.
cinch yard. Yeah, just starts with the mind. And many people say to me, "Oh, Sabrina, you're not really that happy all the time. Um, you know, you must be, have a bad day." And it was
Hmm.
really hard for some
Yeah,
people to believe.
to
And I
understand.
said, it's not that I don't have bad days, it's that I have a choice. I have a
Yes.
choice of what
Yes.
and how I'm gonna
Yes.
feel. And sometimes, I'm
Exactly.
not gonna lie, I wanna be angry and ratchet, and I said, "I'm gonna do this right now because I have the right to," right? But at
Hmm.
least I'm making that choice,
You're
so
making the choice.
I don't have to be victim to my environment. I don't have to be
Right.
victim to someone's opinion, and that's the wellness. And I got to this point because of the daily routine to my
Absolutely. I
wellness.
love this. I really
Yeah.
love this. And it's true. We do have a choice. I think the takeaway is that we find our base, that feeling of what would the Sabrina or the Maxine look like when, or what, if you were powerful, or if you were in, but let's read Makisha's, wow, this conversation is so encouraging and a good reminder of the things that worked in the
Mm,
past. Absolutely.
yeah,
You know,
100%.
and Gail says, this is free therapy session. I appreciate you both a lot right now. You're hitting the nails on the spot. It's, I'm telling
Yes,
you, I've
remarkable.
spoken to so many people who, you can choose. Some people choose to smoke weed, let's just say, right? Some
Mhm,
people choose to drink. Some people choose to maybe have relationships or do things that help them with their wellness, their well-being, and that's totally up to you. Um, and some people write, take pictures, whatever. I chose social media as my way to help me.
mhm,
And you know what, too? You know what I find? I found that when I continued to project positivity, it made me live that life. So whenever I came
100%.
up, absolutely. So whenever I
Yeah.
came up on a stumbling block in my life or something that was challenging me, I would remember that, hey, Maxine, remember you found that quote that resonated with you and you thought you just, shed light on that on your post. Live that life too. And it's not, and I've always wanted to live a positive life. It's always been it's my makeup. It's one of my values. It's one of the
Yeah.
things that is very important to me. But I was in a relationship that was causing me to think less of myself. And
Right.
it was making me go downhill. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I had that outlet, and I will continue to do it because it helps me. But
It has to come back to you.
it has to come back to
Life
me.
is like a boomerang. What you put
Mm-hmm.
out, you'll get back one way
You
or
get
the
back.
other. So
Absolutely.
if you think and feel and do positive things, you I'm not saying it's going to be, rainbows and unicorns, but
No,
it'll lessen the pain, that emotional
it
pain.
does.
It'll
It really
lessen the
does.
effect of that traumatic event, right? And the goal is always to be 51% positive and 49% negative. Just that
I
1%,
like that.
right?
I
And
like that.
if it was a game, if it was a basketball game, right? And it's 50-50, ain't nobody winning at 50-50. But if it's
No.
51 and 49, it doesn't matter if it's the best team or the worst team. Whoever got that 51% has that
Mm-hmm.
bragging right.
How's that? Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
It
Well,
don't matter,
Sabrina,
right?
yeah, this is great. You dropped some good nuggets here, and trust me, I've taken mental notes, and I really feel that you've helped me actually in this because
Oh, thank you.
um, oftentimes we beat ourselves up, right? And
Mhm.
there's still a lot more work to be done. There's a lot,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm hoping that we could. There's some resources that we could. Do you have any resources you can share with anybody that may need some help?
It all depends. So for
Okay.
me personally, I went through Sacred Women International. Global Leadership Village is also good. I've done work 211.ca also has some really good resources.
Right.
Those are the resources that helped me along the
Okay.
way.
Perfect. I like
And
that.
yeah, and there's so much resources, but for mental, because I'm in Alberta, so I don't want to give my resource because it's not applicable for people in Toronto or wherever. But 211.ca is a national resource, and you could just put mental health supports, immigration supports, whatever, and it'll show you in your region. But in terms of like my pathway that started, Nara Lau is my first life coach. She's amazing.
Hmm.
And Sacred Women International also helped me, global leadership. And you can
Okay.
Google these
Nice.
people, they're online. Um,
Nice. Okay. Well,
yeah,
this is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and really thank you for being on this show. In order to contact you, people can email you at Sabrina or sorry, Sabrina at Morrison Bold and
advisory group.
advisorygroup.com.
Yes,
I'm so sorry.
yes. No, that's
And they
okay.
can, yeah,
I have my personal stuff, but for business, it's better just to use that because if it's organizational wellness, mental health training, things like that, that's the best email to.
perfect. And they can
Yeah.
also follow you on Instagram at your Instagram page there, Bree
Yes.
underscore mental health instructor.
Yes.
Amazing.
That's my
So,
personal one.
right. And I would just want to thank you so much, Sabrina. I appreciate you being on the
Oh,
show.
thank you.
And I would like to thank our viewers as well for tuning in tonight's episode of The Healthy Entrepreneur. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, stay well, everyone, and have a good week. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.